So in this video, we're going to go through how you can set your diet up to guarantee you're going to grow muscle. So yes, this works whether you're cutting or you're bulking. Calories. So by now, you know, if you want to burn fat, then you need to be in a calorie deficit. And ideally, if you want to build muscle, then a calorie surplus is the perfect environment for this. To work out your calorie targets, you want to use a calorie calculator. This will work out your maintenance calories, and then you add or take away whether you're going to be in a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. You then use your scales to track your weight to make sure your calorie target is giving you the progress you want, and if not, you adjust it from there. So let's talk about the main macros and why they're important. So after calories, protein probably is the next most important thing. Protein is essential for muscle growth, retention and repair. It's also the most satiating, which just means it will help you stay fuller for longer. This is just because it takes a little bit longer to break down than the other macronutrients. So protein has 4 calories per gram. So your daily protein intake wants to be around 2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. However, if you're in the beginning and that seems like a hell of a lot of protein every single day, just start by adding 30 grams of protein with every meal to make it a little bit more achievable. Fats has 9 calories per gram. Fats are important to regulate your body hormone function, but also provide energy for your body to function. This is the most calorie dense macro, as you can see, by 9 calories per gram, but it's still important. Not necessarily need to track this, but make sure you're getting a minimum of 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. So onto carbs. Carbs are the main source of energy and are important for recovery. You want to be eating carbs to make sure you've got the fuel for your training. Despite what you read online, carbs aren't the enemy and they're not going to make you fat. They're not going to make you fat and you don't need to cut them out. So this is where so many go wrong, because they cut out carbs, they think it's helping them lose fat, but in reality, they've got no energy, they feel like shit, and then they'll just give up with their diet. So for your carb intake, there is an amount to aim for. However, the general rule is once you've hit your protein and your fat intake, then you can use the rest of your calories to fill up with carb. And for most people, their probably favorite macro is alcohol. Alcohol is classed as a macronutrient, but unlike the other 3, they don't have any real nutritional benefit. Most people do love to drink alcohol, and I'm the same, but it's important you're mindful of the calories, especially if you're in a fat loss journey. It's very easy to go over your calories by drinking them, so just keep that in mind. The other issue with alcohol is it typically affects you days after. So drinking alcohol can typically affect your hunger levels, your energy, your performance. So this can lead to you making poor decisions with your diet, lack of movement, or just not wanting to train and skipping workouts. So we need to keep this in mind. Obviously, don't limit it, don't cut it out, but make sure you're mindful what the alcohol will do to your progress. Obviously, you might have heard, make sure you're eating plenty of whole foods. This just comes down to your food quality, and the rule I like to follow is 80% of the time you eat good nutrient-dense foods. So this is stuff like your chicken, your veg, your potatoes, your rice, stuff that's actually good for you. And the other 20%, whatever you want. So if you want to have an ice cream, some chocolate, maybe some alcohol, obviously fit this in as the other 20%. You don't need to measure this, you don't need to make it 100% accurate, but just keep mindful, if you're eating shit all the time, then you're probably going to feel like shit. So 80-20 rule is good for that. Meal timing. This isn't something that's necessary, but I wanted to cover it just because people get so confused with this and think it really matters. So we're going to talk about the carb timing. Obviously, you want to fuel yourself for your workouts, and carbs can be good for a high intensity workout. So fast acting carbs 30 minutes before a workout, and then carbs 90 minutes to 3 hours pre-workout. So if you're going to have a meal, make sure you're getting it at least 90 minutes in before your workout if you want those carbs to have an effect. However, studies have shown it's not important for weight sessions that are fewer than 10 sets. However, if you're going out to play your sport or you're going to do a long workout followed by a run, some cardio, whatever, that's most likely going to last over an hour, these carbs might be effective for you. And another big one that everyone seems to get confused about is protein timing. Look, there's studies that show your body can absorb upwards of 100 grams of protein in one sitting. So I wouldn't really worry about eating too much protein in one meal or not enough, or focus on spreading it throughout the day. Look, I eat a big meal at lunchtime. It typically has around 80 to 100 grams of protein, and then a little less for breakfast, and then somewhere in the middle for dinner. This works fine for me. It's not had any effect on my results, so don't overthink it and just make sure you're hitting that daily protein goal. Obviously, protein post-workout. Do you need to be having a protein shake 30 minutes after your workout? You can if you want, as this will fit into this so-called anabolic window. However, it's not going to make a massive difference to your progress, so I wouldn't stress. But like I said, it's good if you can replenish your body as quick as you can with some protein and some carbs after a workout. This just helps you recover and obviously will support your muscle growth. On to supplements. First off, disclaimer, don't use supplements to replace your diet. We want to be making sure, first of all, we are having a healthy, balanced diet to make sure we're fueling our training and we're fueling for muscle growth. However, these are the 3 supplements that I use that I find really help me. So first off, creatine. Creatine just helps you recover quicker, build more muscle and lift heavier. Yes, creatine can be used either by men or women, doesn't matter, and you want to be taking at least 5 grams of creatine every single day. Whether you want to load this, whether you don't want to load it, doesn't really make too much of a difference as long as you're taking it every day. If you're a slightly bigger person, then you probably want to be taking a little bit more than 5 grams. I've been trying to take 10 grams recently. Have I seen a whole lot of progress by taking more? Not really. It's probably very marginal, but if you're someone who cares about these marginal gains, then it's worth looking into. However, I think everyone should be taking at least 5 grams of creatine per day. The other supplement that I use is electrolytes. This is just something I take in the morning or before or after a workout if I've sweated a lot. So when you wake up, you are actually at your most dehydrated. So I just take these in the morning to give me a little boost and make sure that I am hydrating myself early on in the day. These are also good after workouts to rehydrate yourself. However, they're not completely necessary. So don't go breaking the bank if you don't want to. And finally, protein. Protein isn't essential to get from a supplement. You can just do it through your diet, through your chicken, beef, fish, whatever you like eating. However, they can be super convenient, especially if you're very busy. So it's worth getting if you're someone who has very little time to focus on nutrition, or just find themselves forgetting to eat enough protein earlier on in the day and you're always chasing that protein target. It's probably something that you should have, just so you can quick and easily get in around 20 to 40 grams of protein just like that. That's all from this video. Like I've said before, please drop a subscribe. It really helps the channel, trying to grow it as much as we can to help as many people as possible. And everything that I do is in the description below. So whether you're after some one-to-one coaching, just after some free resources to build a bit of muscle or drop some fat, or just after a free calorie calculator so you can kickstart that diet. Appreciate it if you've watched this far, and make sure you stick around for the next one. Peace.